Welcome to the Black Appalachian Coalition's podcast entitled Blac Re-Membering, where we will bring to you the heavy and the hope across the Ohio River Valley. We want to remember who we are, where we've come from. We want to speak to the oral history of what we've done, what we've achieved. We want to speak to the ills that we have experienced, while also finding solutions to those problems, those issues. We want to deal with the narrative that has kept us deeply rooted in despair. Now we want to punch through that narrative and stand up and say, we are remembering our Black past, and we are rooted, and we are here to stay. Welcome to Blac Re-Membering. We hope that you find your place, your space, and your voice in this podcast.
The Black Appalachian Coalition is a nonprofit organization founded by Bishop Marcia Dinkins. I'm NitaJade, and I'm a cultural worker and narrative organizer for Blac. My role is to gather the lived experiences of African American people in Appalachia to amplify our narratives via podcast and to dispel the erasure of Black people in this region. Black people are, have been, and will continue to be Appalachian. The Black Appalachian Coalition, or Blac for short, puts forth our voices and makes the lived experiences of real people visible. Our hope is that this visibility will aid in our efforts to create policy changes that benefit the Black Appalachian community. Our guest for this episode is Melinda D. Weathers. Melinda works at Centre College and joined the Office of Diversity and Inclusion in July 2021. Originally from Danville, Kentucky, Melinda is a 2002 graduate of Centre College with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Sociology and a graduate of the University of Louisville with a Master of Arts in Sociology. As the Director of Diversity and Inclusion, Melinda is responsible for developing and implementing curriculum and programming, as well as designing and/or delivering trainings, presentations, workshops, and consultations that broadly promote diversity and inclusion. She also serves as a Title IX team member. Please welcome Melinda.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us and being willing to share with our listeners. As your bio says, you're a Danville, Kentucky native. I'm not a Kentucky native myself. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina, so I can't speak to what it was like to grow up here, but if you're comfortable, could you speak about growing up in Danville?
Yes, so I've lived in Danville my entire life, besides a couple of years in Louisville for graduate school. This is home to me. When I was younger, I always said, I'd move away and go maybe to a bigger city and all that kind of stuff, but decided to settle here. I did live in Nicholasville for a couple of years, but decided to settle here in Danville, bought a home, and this is my safe space for me. This is Danville has so many precious memories with my family, and so I reflect on my parents. My dad was a pastor, so we were a preacher's family. My mom heavily involved in church, and then all five of us siblings, children, we were heavily involved in church in our community as well. So I grew up in a two-parent home, both of my parents working adults, along with my dad pastor, and he also had an insurance company agency. And then my mom worked for the bank for many, many years, retired from doing that. And so they worked extremely hard to provide the very best for all of us. And so some of my fondest memories are going to actually out to eat when we was younger, to some of the restaurants, because my mom was a fantastic cook. And so with a family of 7, we didn't do a lot of eating out. So when we had that opportunity, we really, really enjoyed that. So there was a place called Buster's. It was up the street from where we grew up, our family home. And we knew the owner. I think his name was Buster. But anytime we came in there, he treated us like royalty, made sure we had a place to sit. And if we made it to Buster's, we were able to order, whatever we wanted to order within reason. Let me put that out there, within reason. But
Yes.
there was our time to be in an establishment, a white establishment, but we're treated with such respect. My parents were highly, highly respected in the community. And so I carry that with me even to this day. They both have passed on, but I still, I'm prideful of the name, the Weathers being my last name. I carry that with pride because my parents were so well respected in this town. So great, great childhood. And I'm so, so very thankful for the experience I had growing up here in Danville.
Wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing. So did you have any memorable best friends as a kid? And what did y'all do for fun around Danville outside of going to Buster's?
Right. My best friends were my siblings. We grew up extremely close. My parents wouldn't have it no other way. Their motto, if you can't get along here at home, you're not going over to nobody else's house type of thing. So they really encouraged us to remain close. So my siblings, and to this day, they still are my best friends. And then along with my cousins who we grew up with, they lived here in Danville, and one cousin in particular, we were the same age. So we went all through school together. We actually went to college together here at Center College together. So we grew up as sisters, best friends as well. And so we were heavily involved in church, lots of church, lots of my time was spent in church. And in addition to serving here locally, for many years we were part of an organization. So one of the things that we really enjoyed when we had the opportunity to go to conventions, church conventions outside, out of town. And that was the time we had the opportunity to, stay in a hotel and, be away from home and be able to see other folks, other young people from other parts of Kentucky. So those were highlights of my time growing up. There was conventions in May, there were conventions in September. In the summer, there was a youth convention. I think in March, it was a women's convention. So about 4 conventions, probably 4 in a year, if I remember correctly. And so we stayed on the go a lot. My dad is a minister. He would travel a lot for revivals or to preach for anniversaries and things like that. So outside of church, things we enjoyed growing up was going to the library, our local library. My parents' education was extremely important for their lives, and certainly instilled that in our lives. I didn't grow up with a TV in my home, so my imagination was based on what I read. So I didn't, sit up listening or watching cartoons, but spent lots of time at the library, coming home with the boxcar children's novels. Yeah. We enjoyed doing that. And then other things around Danville, I don't really recall a lot. We would do, a yearly vacation. We would spend lots of time in Detroit, Michigan. It was kind of church related, but still we were able to get out of Danville and out of Kentucky, because we got out of Danville quite a bit with church, but out of Kentucky, there was our time to be with our family for vacation. So yeah, pretty quiet, laid back life, not, overly exciting, but it was beautiful. And my parents, as I said, they worked extremely hard to provide for us and did exceptionally well. Ended up building a home. And at that time, they were the second Black family to build a home in this particular neighborhood. It was unheard of. Yeah, built a 6-bedroom home. But they worked hard to make that happen for us. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Especially especially like considering the time and the context of Danville. If you dig back through your memories, when was the first time that you realized your identity as a Black person or a Black woman, or as Appalachian, if you identify as Appalachian?
I can't pinpoint a time when I realized I was Black, because my parents talked about being Black a lot. Like it wasn't anything foreign for us to talk about race. It was celebrated in my home. It was something we were told to be proud of our race. And so probably as a college student, I became more conscious maybe of my race. It was more evident sitting in a class full of predominantly white students, because I went to the public schools, and so it was fairly diverse. As I got into high school and took, AP courses, my classes were less diverse, but I always had my cousin, and so I wasn't the only person of color in a classroom. But once I got to center, I was the only person of color in most of my classes. And so I think that's when I really became more cognitive of my race and thought about it a lot more as a college student, and was super intentional to hang around other Black students. We formed a pack. We went to dinner together every night. If you didn't go to dinner with us, it was because you had to study or something. Like, we didn't go to dinner by ourselves. There was a group of us. We would, at the time, I don't remember who was texting or whatever, but it was just our thing. We were going to our dining services, Cowan, at 6:00. That was our time. We had our table, and we stayed connected to each other. So my center experience really, I think, highlighted my Blackness more than when I was younger.
Thank you. Now that I like the way that you phrased that. You became conscious and cognizant rather than like a realization. Thank you for sharing that. So I got a sense that when you were at Center College, when you were a student, y'all formed a community of Black students just to be. I wanted to follow up on this theme of community. We did do an event back in September, which seems like forever ago. That's wild. But we did this cool event together where you baked a whole mess of delicious pies. And for everybody's knowledge, like by mess, I mean the quantity of the pies that Melinda baked and not the quality, because the pie. Since our listeners weren't present at this event, could you speak about your business and how cooking and baking go hand in hand with community?
Yeah, so what a fun event that was. So my experience with cooking goes as far as I can remember. As I mentioned, my mom was an excellent cook, excellent baker. And so the rule in our house growing up with 3 girls, we were very traditional roles of the girls with cooking and cleaning and the guys with doing very little, but maybe the trash, I guess. But but kind of the unwritten rule was that if you helped to cook, my mom would cook every Sunday morning before we went to church. If you helped with cooking, then you didn't have to do dishes. To this day, I despise doing dishes. I love to cook. The cleanup part, I really could pass on to somebody else. But so that's kind of where, and I like to get up early. My mom was an early riser as well. And so, and that was my time with mom. With 5 kids, of course, parents do the best they can to divide up the time, the love and affection. But I knew if I got up early, I would have my mom all to myself. And so I realized that early on, and at a benefit, I didn't have to do the dishes when we got home from church and after we ate. And so I was up every Sunday with her cooking, helping to prepare Sunday dinner. And then in later years, Mom really started baking. And so she would bake for customers at the bank. By then, we had started a new church. My dad had started a new church. And so we were fundraising to buy land, to build a church, and all this kind of stuff. And so my mom was doing lots and lots of baking. I was helping baking pies, cakes, cookies, brownies, all the things. So after she passed away, I wanted something that I could continue to do to honor her memory. And baking pies was the thing. I baked a pie for a friend, and they put it on social media, and it was like, oh, this chocolate pie. I think it was chocolate pie. It's so good. And people started commenting about it. And somebody's like, oh, can I get one? I was like, oh, sure. I was like, well, how much you charge? It's like, oh, this is whatever you're going to give me. Then it kind of got serious that, more and more people wanted a pie. And so we was doing butterscotch, chocolate, lemon, and I think coconut cream came a little bit later, chess pie, all of yeah. And so it kind of started from there. So I created a Facebook page, put up some pictures. It was close to Easter, I believe. And I took up an order of pies and got like 50 orders of pies. Like, OMG. And so I had a person who was helping me with the pies as well. And it kind of took off from there. In the beginning, I was like, whatever you want to donate, I'll take it. And so the first person who paid for a pie gave me $20. I was like, we could be on to something financially. So I kept it for donations only for a long time. And most were given about 10 to 15, and some were still being consistent with 20. And then as the price of food went up, I was like, okay, I need to make sure I'm making a profit. I did a really cool thing. I didn't mention this in September. My sister who passed away, she was a math teacher. And so I provided for her kids all of the cost of the ingredients and the cost of boxes, the cost of shells and containers. And they did the math so I would know how much profit I was getting out of each pie that I did. And so that was really, really cool for them to do that. And so I set a price for the pies of $12. It's been $12 for a few years. So that's just kind of how the business took off. For all the holidays, I was doing over 100 pies for Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter. Past couple years, I've done wedding pies. It became a little bit of a trend. Folks would have smaller cakes, but then would have these little individual pies. So I partnered with one of my favorite bakers here in town. Her name is Cindy. She makes phenomenal cakes. And so she would send people my way when they ordered a cake from her but wanted pies. And so we did that a few times. And then, unfortunately, with the loss of my dad passed in 2020, my sister in 2021, I really just haven't had the energy or the time, because I'm also doing, my dad was a pastor, so I've taken over his church. I just don't have the bandwidth right now to do pies as much as I would like to. So I do some here and there, but I haven't taken up an order in a while, and folks are pretty mad at me.
At least you know that the demand is there.
And the demand is still there. Yeah.
Until you're in a good place, they will be okay. They can wait.
Yeah, they'll be just fine.
But I admire how you chose yourself, because by we I mean like Black women, and we often try to do it all, or at least in my experience, the women I grew up with, like I could see my mom or my grandma, especially my grandma, saying yes and just like, self-sacrificing and not getting sleep. And, I'm really, really happy that you chose yourself and chose like what you can do. And it's not, I don't want anyone in the audience to think that this is like any indication of selfishness and the negative connotation that we're used to like approaching it from, but like, choosing yourself and prioritizing what you can and cannot do as far as like how you can be of service to yourself and be of service to others is
Right.
it's hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kudos to you. Like, thank you.
Yeah. And it's such an emotional thing. That's one thing that you and we shared and talked about. It's more than just bacon pies. It's the emotion attached with that. I'm already in a very super emotional place right now after losing so many people back to back. It wasn't even a complete year after my dad passed. I lost my sister. So as much as I want to bake pies, it's attached to a lot of memories right now.
Yeah.
And so for my own mental health, it's just, it got to take, slide back just a bit, do it occasionally, but taking big orders and things like that. It's just, it's hard. It's hard to do right now from an emotional aspect.
Thank you for sharing about baking in community. I do want to back up a little bit. So there was this beautiful elder at the event in September, and I don't have permission to say her name, so I'm going to call her Miss B for the sake of this podcast. But she said something that stuck with me, and it's still like I'm still carrying it. I'm probably going to butcher what she said, so I'm gonna just paraphrase. But she commented about like how back in her day, people like us, Black folk, couldn't attend the college, let alone like be on the faculty of the college. So she was beaming when she said this, and that gave me an unexpected sense of pride. And she gave me like this squeeze hug that I really needed that like got me through. But so interacting with Miss B and knowing the very small little bit that I know about Danville's history via the Danville-Boyle County African American Historical Society, I'm putting together that there's been like some erasure that has occurred in Danville. So I was wondering, could you speak to that in your experience? Is this an accurate conclusion to draw? Has there been like African American history or erasure in Danville from your perspective?
First, yes, kudos to Miss. I'll stick with Miss B as well. She is so near and dear to my heart. What happened in Danville? Urban renewal coming in, buying property that was owned by Black folk, and basically, gentrification, right? Moving them all out and taking that land, building white businesses, and Black folks moved to the outer parts of downtown. The ramifications of that will last a lifetime. As I reflect and the stories that I've heard, whether or not that was the intent from the very beginning, I can't really speak to that, versus was it just an economic decision, right? So I don't know how I feel about it. I know it's not either or, it's probably an and, like economic. You see an opportunity to make money, but then also, a racial thing of destroying businesses, trying to erase the history. That could be a byproduct of making an economic decision. So I kind of go back and forth with that. But what I know is that the decisions that were made had a profound impact on Danville. To this day, we do not have strong leadership within the Black community, such as other cities have, like a really strong NAACP, just a group of folks that you can go to when you want to disseminate information to the Black community. It is very, very difficult. I work with folks all the time. They were just like, how can I reach folks of color and Black people in particular? I was like, the one method is through the churches, but as we know, there's been a decline in people attending church in many cases, not everywhere, but in many cases. And so you're still not reaching the vast majority of Black folks in Danville. So you don't have these clubs and these groups that used to exist. I went to the African American Museum, and and folks gathered together. They had the sewing club, or they had a place where they would go and party and all this kind of stuff, places that they were gathered to eat. All of those places are missing. And so when you want to reach people, it is extremely hard to do. And folks are relying on Facebook. Like, we're relying on a social media platform to reach people. And we know how algorithms work. I mean, it may come in your newsfeed or it may not.
Right.
So that's what's disheartening. It's the effect of all those things that happened, in the 60s and the 70s with urban renewal. It didn't just wipe out all those businesses, but it wiped out this sense of community amongst Black folk. You have very few Black neighborhoods now. I can only think of one that would be considered like a Black neighborhood. And that's what's hurtful for me. And I do all that I can. I try to stay involved in organizations, I sit on boards and all that good stuff. But over and over, I'm asked, so how do I reach them? And I don't have an answer. And that's what hurts my heart more than anything. So we lack that strong leadership. We lack individuals or having places to gather and just to be,
Yeah.
You just don't have that here.
That is heartbreaking. That's
Yeah.
When I toured the space, Danville, Boyle County African American Historical Society, which we plan on having on the series later on. But when I toured the space, I was shown how many churches have existed in Boyle County and how few exist now, like Black churches. And like just in the context of US history, like that's the Black church is like an epicenter of community.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just has been. And as that, like you said, it's disheartening to see. I'm also thinking about the graveyards and grave sites, cemeteries, that's the word I'm looking for, that have been like overgrown. And the work that some people are doing to clean them up so that people can like find their ancestors and such. But to me, like the overgrown cemeteries, the overgrown Black cemeteries, is almost like a metaphor for how like communities are slowly disappearing or being covered up or overshadowed.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
It is disheartening, and it's not something I think anyone really has a definitive answer for, but I do think it's a conversation that we need to continue to have, or else it will all get covered up.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
But thank you for your response. So we are closing in on our time here. I wanted to ask you if you would like to share what do you wish could be different about your hometown, and what do you really love about your hometown, which you've kind of already answered, but I wanted to ask you that again.
What I wish was different, and I believe this could happen with some intentionality, is we begin to show and share with young people the opportunities that exist here, even in a small town. I know it's a huge draw to move away and go to a bigger city. But I would love to see more education around the political positions that are open, that can be available to anyone, but specifically students of color, young people of color, and to see how they can make an impact on a local level. We all know, once you get past state government and move, on up, there's work that can be done, but it takes it a while to trickle down to the local level. But real change can happen in certain seats here in Danville. And I wish that was a bigger message. I wish that was a message that I received when I was younger. I wish I knew the role of a city commissioner or a magistrate or any other positions that you don't hear a lot about. I wish that was something that was, shared with us. And you start to groom and encourage people to consider, even if you go away, if you go live your life for a few years somewhere else, but like there's an opportunity to really invest back into the community that invested in you. And so I wish that happens. Don't know how to get that started, but that's a thing that I've thought about for a long time. And to start to get young folks involved on an earlier age of knowing how the political system works, knowing about different boards you can sit on, local boards you can sit on, how to use your voice and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I kind of envision and hope for our small town. What I love about it is that slowly but surely we're moving in the right direction. As a city, as a town, we just elected our first Black mayor.
Yes.
So yes, there's something to be celebrated. And actually, it's also to be celebrated. We had 2 Black men who were running for the seat. So that was historical as well. That both of them happened to be named James. But that was historical. That was something that has never happened before. And so we received our first Black mayor. Happy to see that. Thankful for what the future can look like with a person of color in office and what that can mean for young people, what that can mean for all of us, really. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the opportunity I'm blessed with in my role here at the college, the impact that I can make in my local community, using my voice to create change and advocate for those who are vulnerable. I take great pride and take it serious as a responsibility that I have to try to make an impact on my local community. So I try to do that through service. That's my thing. Service is what fuels me every day. So I try to serve in many different capacities to try to help where I can.
You give me chills just about every time we do something.
It must be cold wherever you are at.
No, I'm always cold, but I feel the goosebumps coming. Gosh, I appreciate everything that you said. I do. Like that. It seems like the information that is needed for what you were speaking on, like the magistrate and like different positions in local governments, like that seems like information that is almost hidden, even though like if you really want, like you could look it up, but it's not something that we're like given any incentive. So thank you so much for speaking on that. And if there is a takeaway that you could give our audience, could you drop us or leave us with a little nugget of wisdom? What would you like our audience to take away from this episode?
What can I drop on you? I don't know. I mean, my philosophy on life is to think globally, act locally. I heard this quote years ago, and I've always adopted it as my way of life. There's something that I can do here in the confines of where I work, my church, in the local community. I can do something here that will impact people's lives. And then, inadvertently, it will have a global impact as well over time. I believe, we connect to people connect to other folks, and then, we start to change the world. But it has to just start right here. I can think about changing the world all day long, but my actions I got to show up for the school board meetings. I got to show up for the Arts Center. I got to show up for any other organization that I'm a part of to start to see change happen. So I take personal responsibility as I live my life. The days when I don't feel like doing it, it's what drives me every single day, to operate in service to other people and to mankind. And so that's just, don't know if that's a wisdom nugget, but that's how I'm trying to live my life. So
that was more than a wisdom nugget. And
Okay.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Think globally, act locally. That reminds me of a quote that someone told me in undergrad, one of the AFR professors, that were like, do what you can from where you are.
That's
Think
right.
locally, act locally. Thank you so much, Melinda. I appreciate you for your time and your wisdom and your story and every aspect of who you are.
No, thank you so much. I love these types of conversations, and I don't get to do it enough. So thank you for thinking of me, and what a connection we are forming. So I appreciate it. Appreciate you. Thank you.